Often we all carry around a lot of different things, ideas, habits, opinions, some worth keeping and some are worth rethinking. I'm Will Nash, and this is Talking Trash with Will Nash, where we sort through it all one conversation at a time. So let's get to it. I want to welcome John Watson on the show today. John, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Great to be here. Now, John is currently, and he has an extensive career, a waste management planner with Cambion. And there's a lot that you do in your role and a lot that we're going to talk about today. Now, you yourself being a waste manager and having done that for a while, is it true that some of us are even confused?
Absolutely. The world of waste management is constantly evolving, but over the last few years, it has evolved dramatically, very quickly, and everyone is kind of in a state of unknown and learning as we're going with new regulations, new changes to systems.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a constant having to learn new things every day to stay on top of our waste management.
Now, when it comes to this, and I know you've been in not this position necessarily, but the industry for a while. What would, if there is one, what would a day in the life look like for you? And then what are some of your, questions that you're answering in your day to day? Because with even the confusion a little bit, right?
Yeah, so I think confusion around regulations and what's maybe happening around not only just blue box recycling, but around some of the other waste streams that we have, like hazardous waste, electronics, furniture, construction, demolition waste. The waste world is very big. People throw a lot of things away. Environmental concerns about making sure things that do end up in landfill are having minimal impact. So making sure that we can protect the environment as much as possible in those landfill settings. And then helping residents or customers who are maybe unsure about how to properly sort their waste at home. So there's a lot of public interaction, whether it be a resident, if you're in a municipality, or customers, clients, visitors, if you're in a business or workplace.
And the interesting thing too is also, and you may or may not realize this, depending if you grew up and you still live in the same city that you were raised in, is that depending on country, city, province, state, it's different. It looks completely different. There's some similarities. You might see a blue bin or a blue box at the bottom of your driveway. But in other situations, the signage and the coloring is different. Do you think that has anything to do with some of the public's confusion?
Absolutely. I think blue box, I think if you gave most people a blue box in 2026, most people have a sense of what's accepted in it.
Yeah.
Maybe not the finesse of exact sorting, but they'd have a general idea. But when you see organics, maybe sometimes in a green bin, sometimes in a brown bin, that leads to confusion. So the more standardization we can do across a province, across a state, across a country, the easier it will be for people who are visiting other locations to know how to sort waste properly and make sure they're recycling and composting as much as possible.
So somebody comes up to you and they say, John, you know what? This is too confusing for me. I don't have the time. I do not have the energy. I do not have the patience to figure out, what goes where. I want to recycle, but it's too complex or it's too taxing.
Yep.
What do you say to that person when you're like, listen, if you can just kind of understand the guidelines and understand the signage and whatnot, you could be helping a lot. So what do you say to the refusal?
Well, if there's a refusal, I would definitely, it's a valid opinion that someone has.
Yeah.
I think what I always like to do is, let's talk about your kitchen. Do you have the bins in your kitchen to properly sort? And that's just the starting place. Do you have a place for your containers, a place for your papers if you're separating recycling that way, a place for your organics? Having those bins in your house just will start getting the ball rolling. And start with the big items. Make sure you're collecting the plastic bottles. Pretty much every program in North America is accepting plastic bottles in the recycling. Just start small, and then we can finesse and get to those problematic or more challenging materials as we kind of get you more established in the routine of regular recycling.
You mentioned something there that to me was key, the word routine. And, we all have those bad habits that we're trying to fix, but you can form good habits too. Do you think that is truly what it's all about, is just starting small and taking it one step at a time? And then how do you go from maybe an individual or maybe like a household sort of plan with that and expanding it maybe into your workplace if you're passionate about it,
Mhm.
or, maybe talking to some of the educators within the schools. Like, are those tough conversations to kind of get started?
I find on the school front, schools typically are very interested in recycling
Hmm.
and composting because they recognize they generate a lot of waste that can be properly sorted. And it's a great educational kind of extension to understand that the actions you take daily have an impact on our environment year round and in the long term. Um, Recycling in the workplace
Hmm.
definitely can be challenging. Some people get very passionate about this is my garbage can and I can't get rid of my big garbage can. But
Hmm.
if we can encourage people to maybe think about managing the waste within their cubicles themselves, bringing it to centralized bins where we
Yeah.
have the color coded bins, that will go a long way to really make it easy for people to recycle. Even I have to say, having visited the bathroom here at Busch and seeing like
Yeah.
here's the bin and it's saying paper towels going in here, the cardboard roll is going in this bin. That's a great example of a very specific room, very specific setting,
Yeah.
but you know how to sort your waste in that facility in that moment. And that's a fantastic example of great signage and putting it into action.
Well, that's a great point. Thanks for the
Thank you.
compliment. I mean, I'd like to take full responsibility for
Excellent.
that, but and maybe here we will. But it's a team of people that obviously help with that. Now, the thing is, just to kind of just be completely real about that, was like when I first started here, shy of 2 years ago. I remember sitting in the lunchroom and finishing up my lunch with my coworkers around me. Again, you're new to a job, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, I'm kind of intimidated to like stand up and okay, where does this
Yep.
plastic go? Where does, the leftover scraps go? So you're not alone in that sort of, I feel like I'm a little more less self-conscious about
Yep.
that now
Yeah.
because of the signage has gotten better and yeah, everything is just a little more clear. But it is something that you just have to get into that routine of, and it is something that might seem like maybe a pain or something that you don't want to do, but just understanding that the impact can be long lasting.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that, the
Yeah, so I
impacts.
mean, the more material you can recycle and compost, the less material is going to need to be disposed.
Mhm.
That will make landfills last longer. It's going to better protect the environment. Finding landfill capacity anywhere in North America is quite challenging and
Yeah.
is costly to do so.
Yeah.
So to be able to make our existing facilities last as long as possible is economically and environmentally very beneficial to the taxpayer, to
Mhm.
municipalities, provincial and state governments. So it's of the utmost importance that everyone participate to their utmost that they can do. Um, and every single person creates waste. Everyone has a role to play in managing the waste they generate. And the easiest thing to do is make sure you're recycling and composting at home, at workplace, at school, and out in the community.
And it's funny too, and we're not necessarily going to go too far into this, but I know I have another podcast episode that we're going to talk about litter prevention too, which
Amazing.
kind of goes hand in
Oh.
hand with what you're talking about. I'm going to be honest with you, I did spend a little bit of time creeping you on social media before you came in today. Like, I hope you don't judge me for
That's
that.
all right.
But we all do it. Some admit
Yep.
it, some don't, is what I'm saying. And you talk about this on your LinkedIn, the snack wrapper crisis.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So which I found very fascinating. So, and there's distress when it comes to the snack wrapper crisis. What is the snack wrapper crisis? Let's break it down.
Yeah, so snack wrappers traditionally have not been an item easy to recycle. It's essentially a kind of a problematic material because it's a plastic foil combination, very tricky in recycling systems to process properly.
Mhm.
In Ontario, starting January 1st, 2026, the provincial government mandated that those items be added into the blue box.
Mhm.
So for someone who's worked in the waste management sector for a long time, that material to me has always been a problematic material. So now to be placing it into my recycling feels a bit odd.
Maybe trauma
A bit,
inducing.
yes, a bit trauma-inducing because it just doesn't fit right.
Yeah.
But I recognize that the producers of that packaging, because they're now responsible for funding the Blue Box program in the province, they are putting serious investment into the system to make sure they can have that material properly sorted out, recycled, and find a market for it. So
Yeah.
they're putting the work into it. So there is has to be a mutual trust between
Yeah.
the people who are producing the packaging, the people consuming the packaging, and the
Mhm.
recycling process. So there's a bit of trust inherently in there. And I think just over time, with more communication out to the public, people will know
Yeah.
here in this province, this is how we need to sort those materials.
And like, from what I understand, the rules behind it all have somewhat recently flipped too with that,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, so I mean, in a lot of jurisdictions, whether it be a province or a state, we're seeing a move towards extended producer responsibility, where the producers of the packaging have to become financially responsible for the management of that waste and
Mhm.
managing the blue box system. That's happened here in the province of Ontario, and so that has changed effectively what's accepted in the blue box system.
Mhm.
And this is keeps waste managers up at night because, in a good way, the rules are changing, but how do we make sure everyone is aware of those changes and that they can participate properly? Is signage being updated on all the bins? Print
Right.
advertising, social media? Are we getting the word out as much as possible to people so they know how to properly sort their
Yeah.
waste?
Is there like any sort of like method to why those materials are acceptable more recently, or is I don't know how much you want to go into that, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, is there some logic behind that?
Um, I think it was probably an example of wish cycling
Yeah.
at the part of the provincial government,
Yeah.
hoping that by mandating it's accepted, the producers will take better responsibility and find a way to manage it properly.
Hmm.
I think if you look across the world, Europe is maybe a bit ahead in terms
Hmm.
of its recycling. It's still considered a challenging item there.
Hmm.
So it could be that Ontario ends up leading the way in figuring out how to manage this material specifically.
Hmm.
That's maybe one material that could have not been added into the blue box right away from my own perspective.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
everyone's going to have their own opinion about that one item for
Yeah.
sure.
Everyone's gonna have their own opinion
Oh,
about a lot of
yes,
things,
yes.
right? So when it comes to like, we're on the topic of changes, right? What do you think are some of the biggest blue box changes that people necessarily don't realize have happened over time?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they forget that the blue box is intended for paper, packaging, and packaging like products. It is
Mhm.
not for everything under the sun.
Right.
So your garden hose is not a package. It does not go into the blue box. And that's
Right.
pretty much standard across North America. So we really have to just come back to this philosophy that not everything, because it's a plastic, or everything, because it's a metal, goes into the blue box. And this is where you need to look at your system,
Hmm.
look at the promotional material that they produce so you know what can actually go
Yeah.
into your blue box at home or at work.
And I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, when it comes to that and knowing, depending on the municipality, the city that you live in, the state that you live in, the province that you live in, depending on where you're kind of consuming this podcast from now, is I think it's as simple as going on, yes, walking into City Hall or going online, in your comfies,
Yep.
and they should be posting that information online because where else are you gonna get that information?
Yeah, so know who's responsible for providing your blue box system or your composting system. It could be your municipality, it could be a service board, a county.
Yeah.
Visit their website. They will have a list of what's accepted.
Mhm.
They may even have a mobile app, so you can download that and check out
Yeah.
any moment of what's accepted in those bins.
Do you think that the current, I guess you're speaking within Ontario, do you think that this current system is like efficient, or do you think there's a long way to go?
I think ultimately it's going to be very efficient.
Yeah.
There's in the first month of a new system being rolled out, there will be some hiccups, especially around maybe curbside collection
Yeah.
issues, but they will be overcome. It's kind of par for the course expected when you're rolling out a brand new system.
Hmm.
And this is a role that a waste manager would think about, right? If you're going to implement a new system, whether it be as a municipality doing curbside collection in a workplace, making sure there's bins in the workplace, you need to think about how people are going to respond to the change and have contingencies if things go right or wrong.
Right. Well, it's funny that you say that because that was my next sort of question.
Excellent.
That was my next sort of question to you is the whole concept of what people still get wrong. You know, what is it as residents? And again, I understand it could be specific to where you're
Yep.
living. What are we overthinking and what are we still doing completely wrong?
Again, so it depends on the jurisdiction
Yeah.
that you're in, and if you've done a waste audit, a municipality, they would have a great idea of what's appearing incorrectly in which stream. So
Mhm.
definitely, there was a podcast episode about waste audits.
Yeah.
Definitely listen to that, but it gives you a sense of are items in the wrong stream, and that's the material maybe we need to address. very simple ones that people get wrong is that any type of plastic goes into the blue box, and that is not the case. It is, again, plastic packaging typically that's going to be accepted, and even within there, there's going to be different kind of requirements. And even regarding plastic, people become very fixated on numbers on
Yeah.
plastic bottles or plastic containers, and that has really gone by the wayside because that doesn't actually tell us if an item is recyclable. It just
Right.
tells us the resin that plastic package was made out of. So if you have numbers in your mind, like 1 to 7, disregard that. That's kind of old
Right.
information.
Yeah, so you need to be up to date. And the thing is too is, I mean, give yourself some grace because even
Yes.
me, I believe it or not, John, I've made a mistake or two in my life.
What?
Not to like breaking news on
Not
this
possible.
podcast, but I've done that too, where it's like, I've thought something went into my curbside blue bin,
Mhm.
and I found out later on that morning that I was wrong. And it's like, okay, so now it's up to me. I have to do the work. I have to get educated and do the research, whether it's, going online,
Yeah.
downloading that app and finding it out. But don't be ashamed about it. Just, kind of get educated on it. And then that way you're doing so much help for yourself and for the environment
Absolutely.
and for just recycling and waste management in general.
Of
right?
course. And I think it speaks to the fact that things are changing. Waste management is changing,
Yeah.
right? So what was accepted in your blue box 10 years ago may be different now because of the way the markets work,
Yeah.
because new packaging has been introduced into the marketplace. So it is constantly evolving, and you just need to look at your flyer, print it off, put it on the fridge,
Yeah.
and know how to sort properly at home.
And it's probably a common thing too, right? With people maybe renting or buying and selling, and what might work in a large metropolis
Mhm.
could look completely different if you're in cottage country.
Absolutely.
In terms of obviously the day that you're putting out your compost and recycling and your
Yeah.
green bin and all that, but also just what's acceptable.
Absolutely. So depending often on the size of the municipality or the jurisdiction, it could influence what is accepted just because they have larger access to markets to sell that material at the end.
Yeah.
Small municipalities may have a smaller kind of basket of goods that they accept in the recycling, but again, check your municipal website or county website. It's going to have the information for you. And if you are visiting somewhere different, check out their rules. There may be different requirements about set out times, or they may not even have curbside collection and you're taking it to a depot and it has to be specific hours that you visit. Just make sure you have that all that information, and you can protect the environment anywhere you go.
And that's just it. And the thing that I think can come with a lot of this, we've done episodes about like eco-anxiety, and obviously stress comes into play with this. There's a lot to be concerned. There's a lot to be mindful with, and a lot to keep up to date with for sure. Like the work truly is on you.
Yeah.
But what is one thing when it comes to waste management, even recycling, that you think people should stop stressing about?
That's a great question. There are things that people should stress out about.
Well, hey, do that.
In terms of a stressor, and this is kind of a weird one, is food waste. And people maybe buying food, having it in their fridge, either having it spoil or not eating it, and then throwing it away. So there's a lot of work being done recognizing that there's a lot of avoidable food waste appearing in the garbage or in compost. So just make sure if you're buying food, you do actually eat it. We're trying to avoid wasting food unnecessarily. I think things to not get stressed out about is plastic bottles. Those are going to be accepted. Don't stress about it. Don't stress about numbers. Paper, newspaper, don't stress about that. It's going to be accepted. Even pizza boxes, there's always stress around grease on pizza boxes. Most of the research from the paper kind of and cardboard industry is that those items can be recycled.
Yeah.
Grease comes off from the cardboard when they're doing the pulping of that paper. So don't stress about, it's got grease, I can't put it in the recycling. Yes, you can. Just get the cheese off. And you'll be okay.
And there's bins for those now too, like especially if you're at colleges and universities are available because lots of pizza.
Lots of
era,
pizza
right?
boxes, and great to have. Even if you are a municipality and have a like the municipality I work for, there was a park that had a lot of pizza boxes in it. That park needed a bin just to collect pizza boxes because of the amount of people hanging out in the park eating pizza.
They're just
And
ordering their pizza and hanging out in the park.
Hanging in the
and
park, which is
having a
great.
slice.
Like the town loves it to see the park so busy.
Yeah.
Let's provide the means for people to recycle that box at the end of it.
Well, this has been so insightful today. I'm not letting you go yet,
All
though,
right.
because there's something that we do now. It's actually for season 2, the Talkin' Trash Fast 5. So,
All right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say something, ask you a question, and the first thought that comes to your mind, it may or may not be related to what we talked about
All
today,
right.
or it could just be something fun in general. So
All
are you
right.
ready, John?
I'm ready.
Okay. So paper towel or air dryer?
Air dryer.
Air dryer. Okay. Compost or garbage?
Compost.
There we go. Good answer.
Yeah.
Reusable bottle or plastic?
Reusable bottle.
The one thing everyone should stop buying?
Disposable coffee pods.
Like okay.
Yes.
We're not going to say
We're not
it.
going to say a name, but disposable coffee pods.
I don't have one anymore, if that makes
Yes,
you feel better.
yeah.
Okay, I'm on your good side. One smell you'd throw in the trash forever. What's one smell that you just cannot stand?
Oh, I like most smells. That's weird. I honestly can't think of anything. I have visited so many landfills and composting facilities and recycling facilities, and even though they are strong smells,
Yes.
I actually don't mind those. So
I feel like because of
burnt coffee, I will say burnt coffee.
Yeah,
Yes,
that makes
there
sense.
you go.
I feel like because of what you do, you're almost so immune to all of these smells.
Yes,
Where
yes.
if I was to walk into a room or walk into somewhere, I'd be like, oh, I feel like I was gonna be
Yeah, no,
sick, right? But
Yes.
you're just like,
I have smelled some things in my life, and it doesn't really faze me anymore.
oh my god,
Things smell.
they do. Well, this has been things smell. I mean,
Yeah.
what more can I say to that, right? Well, John, this has been such a great conversation. We're gonna have to plan to have you on a future episode down the
Thank you,
line,
Will.
and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here and
Thank
talking
you.
trash. That is a wrap on this episode of Talking Trash with Will Nash. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, you want to hear more conversations like this, make sure you rate our podcast. 5 stars only, subscribe so you do not miss an episode when it drops. Until next time, keep what matters and rethink the rest.